The key to profitable podcasting boils down to one thing. Insights from the book, Profit from Your Podcast by Dave Jackson. This is the Independent Podcaster Problem Solver Show, and I'm Dr. Brad Miller. Hello, good people. Hello, my problem solver friends. This indeed is Dr. Brad Miller, and I welcome you to the Independent Podcaster Problem Solvers Show. I've been an independent podcaster for 12 years now and have determined to make it part of my mission to help solve the problems that I've encountered as an independent podcaster and that I know that you do too. I think they boil down to three things, really. Acquiring and building an audience, making money podcasting, and tech. And we do that by, number one, reviewing books and tapes and courses and coaching from prominent podcasting legends. So we're going to be starting in on here today. We're going to be listening to your problems. We ask you to go to podcastindependent.com/voicemail. Leave us your problem, particularly if you're dealing with money problems in podcasting right now. So the question of the day is, what are some ways that you've tried and failed to make money podcasting? And if you are a podcaster who has a solution to that problem, you can call in as well. The voicemail, podcastindependent.com/voicemail. Then we also like to point people to the best events and live events and online events that are happening that can help you get connected to other people. I have such an event. It's called podindy.com. And Dave Jackson, who's the feature of this second episode of this podcast, he's going to be unpacking his book, Profit from Your Podcast, at this event, helping you, the business person or the prominent podcaster, to make money, become profitable with your podcast. And his audiobook is coming out very soon. So you just go to podindy.com. That's podindy.com. And the event is on November the 9th, 2024, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. We are live and in person in Indianapolis, but we're also live virtually. And also you can get the download ticket. $57 to be in person, $27 for virtual, $37 for download. And you use the coupon code Indy, I-N-D-Y, and get a 15% discount. And just go to podindy.com for details. Well, today we're going to really delve into the book for the next several episodes here of independent podcaster problem solvers. We're going to dive into the book Profit from Your Podcast by Dave Jackson. And I just want to read a little bit from chapter 1 of the book. First of all, get the book on Amazon or someplace and just go along with me. We're using this book the next several episodes as we break down this here. And just reading here from chapter 1, The Power of Podcasting. And it just says, Dave says this in his book. I just want you to hear it. If you learn nothing else, more else in this book, learn this. It starts with relationships. And those relationships exist when you deliver a podcast of value. If you picked up this book to get rich quick, put it down now. If you picked up this book because you just had to create a podcast about your subject and would talk about it for free if you could, but would prefer not to prefer to make a profit, then read on. It all boils down to delivering value, serving your audience, developing relationships. And I'm going to say that again, Dave says. It all boils down to delivering value, serving an audience, and developing your relationships. And he goes on to say, what will motivate people into action is a relationship with you that you build with your audience. And you build the relationship by developing phenomenal content via your podcast and by responding to emails and voicemails and comments. So that's going to be our starting place here today. And what we talk about here is how you start to build a podcast that can help you become profitable. It has to do with relationships, connections. That's the magic formula, everybody. That's where it starts. It starts by developing a connection, a relationship with the topic or the niche that you are passionate about, and then sharing that with other people. And you do that through the medium of a microphone and a camera, a YouTube channel, Apple Podcast, your website, other ways to get the word out there. And so that's what you do. You develop these relationships, and that becomes the point then. So the point here is to understand that podcasting is all about relationships of value. And I just take, in my heart, that means relationships of value that bring meaningfulness or entertainment or some good stuff to somebody else. So it's all about this. So the idea here is to deliver great value in what you offer. Learn your topic, get into it. Know the intent behind everything that you are about is to serve other people. It's on serve of the audience. Deliver value, service to others, develop relationships. And guess what? It becomes friendships. I consider Dave Jackson a friend of mine and many other people I've encountered in the podcasting world. And it happens that way. That's the first step. Then the monetization part develops and nurtures through those relationships and the relationships that you begin to nurture and bring in as you expand your audience. So the podcast, in a way, you're not supposed to be making money from the podcast itself. You're making your money, you're making your income through the medium of the communication of the message that you have. And you help people to be moved to action to buy a product or a service or some other way monetize what you do. So you do this through developing content, by responding to emails and voicemails and comments, as we said, and by marketing, that is sharing the good news about the products and services that you offer through your podcast, through the area of life that you're involved with. So let's talk a little bit more about the benefits of podcasting. When you begin a podcast, you immediately begin to present yourself as an expert. Now, you may not be a big expert on, butterfly collecting as someone else, but I bet you know more about it than some other people if that's what you want a podcast about, because it gives you the viability that you have studied it and you're working on it. And then you establish yourself as an expert, and then you begin to become kind of known as the brand guy, the butterfly guy, or whatever it would be. And you begin to potentially raise your value by being known as the person who knows a little bit more than somebody else. And then you begin to get some feedback on that as you put out more content. And that is what people begin to know you, and they begin to like you and to trust you. You've heard this. And people who are your potential customers then get connected with you in that. And then because of the power of the medium of podcasting, of this microphone and this camera, you can literally get your word spread out to the world. You can reach a global audience just through your phone or through a microphone or through your YouTube channel. So I would invite you then in this whole process, and this is what Dave talks about in his book, is begin to think about the power of niche, some people call it. But that is finding a particular area that you can be connected to. I mentioned butterflies. I just thought about that because I used to collect butterflies when I was a kid and showed them at 4-H fairs and things like this. And you know what? I actually put them in displays. I won a little bit of money, a little bit of prize money by just showing off my love of butterflies and insects, entomology. That's when I was just a kid. What is your thing? Right now, one of my things I deal with is I'm a cancer survivor. And so I have a podcast called Cancer and Comedy where I talk about cancer and how there's ways of coping with it. And then we have courses and other things that we use to share with people there. And if you have a niche of people that you can speak to, that you have some value to add to their lives, that then can become the potential place to add value in such a way that you can begin to profit. Monetarily, to be sure, but also through relationships and through knowledge, through joy, through laughter, through quality relationships that can happen. Broadcast mediums, television, radio, things like that, it's called broadcast for a reason because it goes out to the masses. But let's just say you're going for certain people who have some of these niches, butterfly collectors, people with cancer. Triathletes is one that Dave mentions in his book. Well, if you have a broadcast, it's just going to, and a product or service that touches those people, it's going to be a lot of energy out there to try to reach just a few people. A podcast can be narrowcast to that particular interest, butterfly collectors, cancer survivors, triathletes, and then your message can go zero in and be directly benefit them. That's the benefits of this. You can increase the capacity of your audience to connect with you and build a relationship with them. Therefore, you can develop then a network of other experts and other people in this area that you can be recognized as a leader in your niche. And the niche audiences may be smaller than a broadcast audience, but they could be more powerful because they are more engaged and loyal. So I just want you to think about that. This is what Dave talks about here in his book, about the starting place is value that you add, and who can you add value to? So that's your exercise for today, is to think about what is some area in life that you are compelled, that you got to talk about, that you know something more about than maybe some other folks or people ask you about, and that is what you are about. That can become your niche at a starting point. Maybe you think you got too many niches, too many things you're interested in. Well, just choose one. You know how I started podcasting? I started podcasting by my son was the captain of his high school lacrosse team, and I was involved a little bit with parents groups and things like that, and realized that lacrosse was a very niche sport in our community. And so they just needed a little voice out there. So I just started up a podcast 12 years ago, talked to the players and coaches. We had a lot of fun with that. And that blew up, and I began to do other things, including through faith-based audiences. I now produce podcasts. I do daily Bible study things. I do a cancer-related podcast, do business-related podcasts, and now I've started this podcast to serve the podcasting community, all because they are now interest of mine and they've expanded. I want to invite you to think about how it can increase monetary gains. It has for me, I know, but also how it can be a place just to expand your humanhood, your humanness, and expand your mind, expand your depth and your breadth of your life. So I would just think that you can unlock the power of your potential through podcasting. And it has to do with understanding the value that you have and what you can offer. And people do buy then from a point of value. If you have something that they value, then they will buy that. And that can take many forms. It can take the form of coaching. It can take the form of selling products, having ads on your program. It can take the form of selling courses, of membership groups, all kinds of things that can do. We'll be getting into a lot more of these things as we go along here on the book Profit from Your Podcasting. So let's boil it down here, Did. The benefits of podcasting is having something of value that you can share in relationship. The key to this lesson today is about relationship. Therefore, you're recognized as an expert. You build up your own brand of whoever you are, and the people who connect with your brand become your potential customers. And then you begin to zero into that market and even expand that market. So Dave gives just lots of insights and tips about that in his book, Profit from Your Podcast. And I invite you to get that book and to follow along with me. The next several episodes, I'm going to be breaking down the next chapters of this book. This first chapter was all about value, about having something of value and to share that with others. I would invite you to follow along in episode number 3 here of Independent Podcaster Problem Solvers Show. And with the next episode, we're going to be talking about putting first things first in profit. We're going to talk about what you need to do first. Right now, we talked about your overall value that you have of a podcast. Next thing we're going to talk about beginning to build an audience. So you don't want to miss that. I also want to remind you that the 3 things we're all about here at Independent Podcaster Problem Solvers is to review books and resources that people have. That's what we're doing here. The second thing is to hear you. So we'd love for you to go to podcastindependent.com/voicemail, leave me a voicemail. And that you can also go to podcastindependent.com/follow and follow the podcast, and then get connected to our events. The event that I have is called podindy.com. It's November 9th, 2024, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. live in Indianapolis, $57, but you can get you can get a virtual ticket for $27 and a downloadable ticket for $37. And Dave Jackson is going to be unpacking in depth himself his book, Profit from Your Podcast. And we're going to talk about how it's enhanced by AI. You don't want to miss that. And use the coupon code INDY, I-N-D-Y, at podindy, PODINDY.com, and get 15% knocked off that price. We're here to be helpful to you. My name is Dr. Brad Miller, and I'm here to provide a bit of a prescription, a solution to the podcasting, to the problems that independent podcasters have. I'm here to be helpful to you. So I invite you to reach out to me at my website, which is independentpodcaster.com. Next episode, first things first. It's been good to be with you. Until next time, good people, this is Dr. Brad Miller. Keep on solving those problems.